story highlights ideas about female beauty are constantly changing and have been for 23,000 years, yet the impact on body image remains the same, experts say. CNN. Hidden in the halls of the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York are historic textiles and glamorous garments, many of which hold secrets from years past. Yet no matter how aesthetically unique or historically significant a particular piece of fashion may be, most visitors to the museum typically ask one question, said Im McClendon, the museum's associate curator of costume. People come and always want to know what size something is, said McClendon, who organized the exhibition The Body, Fashion and Physique, about the history of the idealized body type in fashion, which is on display until May. Whether it's contemporary or 19th century, they want to know what size it is or what size it would correlate to, or what measurement it is, she said. We as a culture, as a society, are obsessed with size. It's become connected to our identity as people. This obsession fuels societal pressures to appear a certain way and to have a certain body type, particularly among young women, stemming from a cultural construct of the ideal body, which has in turn changed over time, as long ago as prehistory. Read more. Thousands of years ago, sculptures and artworks portrayed curvaceous, thick-set silhouettes. More recently, in the late 20th century, thin, waif-like models filled the pages of fashion magazines. Now, shapely backsides are celebrated with likes on social media. To mark International Women's Day, we explore how this ideal is ever-changing, forming a complex history throughout art and fashion, with damaging impacts on women who try to conform in each era. Photos, perceptions of beauty throughout history. The Venus of Willendorf figurine dates to about 25,000 BC and is considered a masterpiece of the Paleolithic era. Some historians point to the 4-inch statuette as a representation of idealized female beauty at the time. Hide caption 1 of 11 photos, perceptions of beauty throughout history. The marble sculpture Venus de Milo dates to about 100 BC. The 6-foot-tall statue is commonly thought to represent Aphrodite, the ancient Greek goddess of sexual love and beauty. Hide caption 2 of 11 photos, perceptions of beauty throughout history. The Three Graces by artist Peter Paul Rubens, circa 1635. The oil painting is an example of how the painter often depicted women with curvy, full-figured bodies. Hide caption 3 of 11 photos, perceptions of beauty throughout history. A photo of Bianca Lyons, circa 1902. The actress' curves are emphasized by her corset. Hide caption 4 of 11 photos, perceptions of beauty throughout history. Where there's smoke there's fire by American artist Russell Patterson dates to the 1920s. The full-length illustration depicts a fashionably dressed flapper with a slender body. Hide caption 5 of 11 photos, perceptions of beauty throughout history. Actress Marilyn Monroe in 1954, while filming The 7-Year Itch. She became one of the world's most adored sex symbols. Hide caption 6 of 11 photos, Perceptions of Beauty Throughout History. Leslie Lawson, known as Twiggy, in 1966. She was famous for her lean body type, which became a popular image in fashion magazines during that time. Hide caption 7 of 11 photos, Perceptions of Beauty Throughout History. Supermodel Naomi Campbell walks the runway in 1989. During this era, slender yet strong supermodels became idealized images of beauty. Hide caption 8 of 11 photos, Perceptions of Beauty Throughout History. Supermodel Kate Moss, photographed for Calvin Klein in 1993, had a slim body type, often described as waif-like, that became popular. Hide caption 9 of 11 photos, Perceptions of Beauty Throughout History. Reality star Kim Kardashian, in 2017, who often poses in a way to showcase her posterior. The term belfie, a butt selfie, was reportedly coined by Kardashian herself. Hide caption 10 of 11 photos, Perceptions of Beauty Throughout History. Body image experts are hopeful that a new era will usher in more such body-positive images and attitudes. In 2016, toy manufacturing company Mattel announced the expansion of its Barbie Fashionistas doll line to include 3 body types, tall, curvy and petite, as well as a variety of skin tones and hairstyles. Hide caption 11 of 11 Prehistory 1900s, a focus on full-figured silhouettes. Some of the earliest known representations of a woman's body are the Venus figurines, small statues from 23,000 to 25,000 years ago in Europe. The figurines, including the Venus of Willendorf, found in 1908 at Willendorf, Austria, portray round, pear-shaped women's bodies, many with large breasts. Experts have long debated whether the figurines symbolize attractiveness or fertility. In ancient Greece, Aphrodite, the goddess of sexual love and beauty, was often portrayed with curves. A statue commonly thought to represent Aphrodite, called the Venus de Milo, depicts small breasts but is shaped with a twisted figure and elongated body, characteristic of that time period. Artists continued to portray the ideal woman as curvy and voluptuous all the way through to the 17th and 18th centuries. The 17th century Flemish painter Peter Paul Rubens was even the namesake of the term Rubenesque, meaning plump or rounded, as he often depicted women with curvy body types. Corset training, a celebrity weight loss trend, largely busted to achieve this in reality. The corset became a popular undergarment among women in the Western world from the late Renaissance into the 20th century. It helped accentuate a woman's curves by holding in her waist and supporting her bosom. As societal views of a woman's body changed over time, so did the shape and construction of the corset, also sometimes referred to as stays. The 18th century stay mirrored a cone-shaped silhouette, but by the 1790s, shorter stays emerged, resembling proto-brassieres, which complemented the new fashion trend of high-waisted dresses. There was an emphasis on understructure to shape the body. That's true for skirts as well, McClendon said. Whether it be hooped or caged or padded, understructures were worn around the lower body to create a specific volume, she said. In the 18th and the 19th centuries, the idealized fashionable body, so this is talking specifically about what's promoted in the fashion industry itself, was much more curvaceous and much more voluptuous. In the 1890s, American artist Charles Dana Gibson drew images of tall, slim-waisted yet voluptuous women in illustrations for mainstream magazines, and these depictions of the new feminine ideal were referred to as the Gibson girl. Photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes. 100 years ago. Photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes. 100 years ago. Frank, personal and explicit. Egon Schiele's groundbreaking nudes. Crouching woman with green kerchief. 1914. 43 years before the first issue of Playboy hit newsstands, a 20-year-old art school dropout, and protege of Art Nouveau painter Gustave Klimt, released some of the most shocking nudes of the century. Egon Schiele, The Radical Nude, an exhibition at London's Courtauld Gallery, looks at the Austrian expressionists' technically exquisite and sexually explicit depictions of the human form. By Alice J. Elaine, for CNN. Hide caption 1 of 10 photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes. 100 years ago. Frank, personal and explicit. Egon Schiele's groundbreaking nudes, standing nude with stockings. 1914. Though widely lauded by art historians today, Schiele's nudes initially drew intense criticism from traditionalists and the public. A coy, blushing nude could be a masterpiece, but his challenging figures were considered more pornographic than artistic. Sometimes these poses are very frank in their sexuality and explicitness, and would have been totally beyond the pale for the academic context, or even affronting contemporary standards of morality, explains Barnaby Wright, Daniel Katz, curator of 20th century art at the Courtauld Gallery. Hide caption 2 of 10 photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes. 100 years ago. Frank, personal and explicit. Egon Schiele's groundbreaking nudes. Erwin Dominic Ozen, nude with crossed arms. 1910. His poses often seem more like contortions. Unnatural and difficult to hold, they were an obvious departure from the natural, modest ones adopted by nudes until that point. For him, the experience is not a shock tactic, but genuinely trying to find a new visual language to explore the body. Hide caption 3 of 10 photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes. 100 years ago. Frank, personal and explicit. Egon Schiele's groundbreaking nudes. Male lower torso. 1910. Schiele extended this desire to create a new visual language to his use of color. When he does use those brighter and highly keyed colors, he wants us to engage with the body in a different way. He wanted to make the familiar strange, as it were, and ask us to look again at the human figure. He applied this philosophy outside of the erotic too. In 1910, he was permitted to make nude studies of newborns and their mothers at a Vienna hospital to explore the themes of maternity and pregnancy. Four of these pieces will be on display as part of the exhibition. Hide caption 4 of 10 photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes. 100 years ago, frank, personal and explicit. Egon Schiele's groundbreaking nudes. Standing nude with stockings. 1914. Schiele's desire to show the human body in a different light was heavily influenced by Vienna's artistic and intellectual scene at the beginning of the 20th century. Artists, scientists and poets, from Gustav Klimt and Oskar Kokoschka to Sigmund Freud, would congregate in cafes to discuss ideas and identity at a time when the city was rapidly expanding and changing. There was a real cross-fertilization of ideas, Wright says. In their different ways, they were all seeking to understand something behind the bourgeois official facade. What they were searching for was a truer account of the human experience, human desire, and human emotions. Hide caption 5 of 10 photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes. 100 years ago, frank, personal and explicit. Egon Schiele's groundbreaking nudes. Kneeling nude with raised hands, self-portrait. 1910. The city's intellectual circles took to him immediately. Though his work wasn't earning him a fortune, Schiele was able to remain afloat thanks to the support of a handful of loyal collectors. He quickly established himself because of the brilliance of his draftsmanship and his daring approach. Hide caption 6 of 10 photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes. 100 years ago, frank, personal and explicit. Egon Schiele's groundbreaking nudes. Squatting female nude. 1910. Schiele had developed his life drawing skills at the Vienna Academy of Fine Art before he dropped out 3 years in. These skills, combined with his unique vision, made for compelling work. What's extraordinary about Schiele's work is just how he's able to combine that kind of subject matter with the handling of the pencil and the brush, Wright says. You have on the one hand works that you could get lost in just for their aesthetic beauty, but you're constantly oscillating between that and the realization of these things and frank depictions of sexuality. Hide caption 7 of 10 photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes. 100 years ago, frank, personal and explicit. Egon Schiele's groundbreaking nudes. Nude self-portrait and gray with open mouth. 1910. However, with time, Schiele would go on to win the support of key members of the art establishment. Most of his nudes are not explicit and shocking, and large groups of those nudes were exhibited publicly, Wright says. From 1915 onwards, they really helped secure his reputation more generally. Hide caption 8 of 10 photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes. 100 years ago, frank, personal and explicit. Egon Schiele's groundbreaking nudes. Two girls embracing, friends. 1915. That same year, the Museum of Fine Art in Budapest bought Two Girls Embracing, Friends, which is still part of its collection today. That's a real mark of broader appeal that a major museum would invest in one of his drawings of that type. Hide caption 9 of 10 photos. This expressionist painted the world's most radical nudes, 100 years ago. Frank, personal and explicit. Egon Schiele's groundbreaking nudes, seated female nude with raised arm. Gertrude Schiele, 1910 and 1918. Schiele would succumb to the Spanish flu pandemic that would kill as many as 50 million that year, at the age of 28. Though his contributions to the art world were never truly recognized until the 70s, Wright believes Schiele's influence can still be seen today, especially in provocative female artists like Tracy Emin, Marlene Dumas, and Jenny Saville, who is part of a joint exhibition with Schiele at Kunsthaus Zurich. The power of their work is this sort of reappropriation of the naked body, male and female, when for centuries women artists had very little voice and certainly wouldn't have been able to produce such work, Wright says. When female artists use the nude in that way, it's quite comparable to Schiele wanting to challenge the kind of very staid, conservative and rather hypocritical culture of Vienna around 1900. Hide caption 10 of 10. Going into the early 20th century, the portrayal of women's bodies in art was constantly evolving, as seen in French artist Henri Matisse's oil paintings showing life, flowing bodies, and then Spanish artist Pablo Picasso's paintings showing plump, contorted nude bodies in vivid detail. Then, in the 20th century, there's a very defined shift towards an increasingly young and increasingly kind of athletic and slender body, McClendon said. It remains somewhat unclear what triggered this shift, but the interest in thin bodies would continue well into the modern day. (1920s-50s), eating disorders, and a changing bust-to-waist ratio. The rise of the 1920s flapper reflected this shift toward the Western world desiring a more slim physique. As slender women's bodies started to appear in magazines in the mid-1920s, an epidemic of eating disorders also occurred among young women, according to some studies. The highest reported prevalence of disordered eating occurred during the 1920s and 1980s, the two periods during which the ideal woman was thinnest in U.S. history, researchers at the University of Wisconsin-Madison wrote in a paper in the Journal of Communication in 1997. Photos, the allure of pinups. For generations, the fantastical pinup girl has been an important part of American culture, and more recently around the world. A major new set of books, The Art of Pinup, which is published by Tuscan, is a landmark in the burgeoning appeal of the art form. Hide caption 1 of 10 photos, The Allure of Pinups. The artists were often accomplished painters in their own right, which lent their pinup art a widely respected artistic credibility. Hide caption 2 of 10 photos, The Allure of Pinups. The images first shot to popularity during the Great Depression, and became an important part of morale during World War II, when they were often painted on the fuselages of American airplanes. Hide caption 3 of 10 photos, The Allure of Pinups. Notably, pinup paintings were not intended for secret viewing by teenage boys. Instead, as the term pinup indicates, they were proudly displayed on walls. Hide caption 4 of 10 photos. The allure of pinups. In the last 10 years, the cost of original pinup art has sharply increased, even during the global recession of 2007-08. Hide caption 5 of 10 photos. The allure of pinups. This suggests that the paintings have lost none of their reassuring appeal, even in the modern world, where sexual images are far more ubiquitous. Hide caption 6 of 10 photos. The allure of pinups. The popularity of the pinup art form is also due to the fact that the models are invariably presented in innocent poses, as emblems of wholesome sexuality. Hide caption 7 of 10 photos. The allure of pinups. Although in many cases real-life models were used, their figures and poses were exaggerated to present an idealized vision of unattainable beauty. Hide caption 8 of 10 photos. The allure of pinups. All the indications are that the popularity of pinup art will only increase in the years to come, as the world becomes more complicated and uncertain. Hide caption 9 of 10 photos. The allure of pinups. There is another reason behind the enduring appeal of the pinup, the quality of the art itself. Some of the artists were really very good, says Hansen. Hide caption 10 of 10. The bust-to-waist ratios among women featured in the magazines Vogue and Ladies' Home Journal dwindled by about 60% between 1901 and 1925, according to an analysis in a study published in the journal Sex Roles in 1986. Such findings would constitute empirical support for the hypothesis that the mass media play a role in promoting the slim standard of bodily attractiveness fashionable among women, the researchers wrote. Through this standard, perhaps the eating disorders that have become increasingly common. By the late 1940s, that ratio climbed back, increasing by about 1/3 in both magazines, the study found. Around that time, the fuller body types of pinup models and actresses like Marilyn Monroe grew in popularity, and the first issue of Playboy magazine was published in 1953. The ratio then dropped again. By the late 1960s, the ratio had returned to approximately the same level it was in the 1920s, the study found. In the 1960s-70s, a complete fallacy revealed the historical shift from a rounded to a thinner body preference led to the rise of British fashion model Leslie Lawson, known as Twiggy, and other slender models. They seem to symbolize a shift away from the corsets and pin-up girls of years past. Simultaneously, the second wave of the women's rights movement began. Just watch it, supermodel, I looked like an alien being, replay more videos. Must watch supermodel, I looked like an alien being. 04:27 In 1960, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved the birth control pill. In 1963, women's rights activist Betty Friedan published her book The Feminine Mystique. In 1966, the National Organization for Women in the U.S. was founded. People talk about the 60s, even the 70s, as this moment when the woman's body is freed, McClendon said. but that notion that women were all of a sudden completely free in their bodies after that point is a complete fallacy. Although women were no longer squeezing themselves into corsets, the media messaging and societal pressures to adhere to an ideal body still continued. That ideal was instead a very young and thin body type. Foundation garments were replaced by diet and exercise, McClendon said. What remained was the notion that in order for your body to be truly fashionable, you had to probably change it some way, she said. You had to maintain it in some way. The incidence of severe anorexia nervosa requiring hospital admission rose significantly during the 1960s and 70s to reach a plateau, according to a study in the journal Current Psychiatry Reports in 2012. (1980s-90s), the rise of the supermodels, and obesity. Though images of thin women continued to be mainstream well into the 1980s, there became more of an emphasis on strong, athletic and toned body types. Why we can't stop body shaming? We do see an interest in a fit, toned, strong body, still lean but athletic. So this is where you get the emphasis on those classic supermodels like Cindy Crawford and Naomi Campbell, McClendon said. Though there still was an emphasis on a thin body, there was also emphasis on a healthier and fitter body. Then, by the 90s, that emphasis shifted back to more skinny, waif-like body types. The term that gets so much associated with that decade as the 90s is the moment of the waif, McClendon said. Kate Moss is the epitome of that. Her nickname was the waif. She became a household name from Calvin Klein ads in the early 1990s. Anorexia nervosa was associated with the highest rate of mortality among all mental disorders during the 1990s, according to the study in Current Psychiatry Reports. Around that same time, the World Health Organization began sounding the alarm about the growing global obesity epidemic. Obesity means a person has too much body fat, and it can increase the risk of health problems including diabetes, heart disease, stroke, arthritis and even some cancers. The prevalence of obesity sharply increased in the 90s. An estimated 200 million adults worldwide were obese, and that number rose to more than 300 million by 2000, according to the WHO. Just watch ED Had Is Obesity? Replay more videos. Must watch What is Obesity? 01:15 as images of obesity flashed across media screens as a part of public health outreach efforts, in contrast so did images of skinny models, McClendon said. We begin to see a stark divide in the way bodies are presented across the media, with extreme thinness celebrated in fashion imagery while larger bodies are highlighted as unhealthy and bad in reporting on obesity. And we begin to judge our own bodies through the same binary lens, she said. So, it seems, the psychological impacts from that included impacts on body image. 2000s, loss of self-confidence. Nearly a third of children aged 5 to 6 in the US select an ideal body size that is thinner than their current perceived size when given the option, and by age 7, 1 in 4 children has engaged in some kind of dieting behavior, according to a Common Sense Media report published in 2015. Kids as young as 5 concerned about body image. The report, based on a review of existing studies on body image in media, also found that between 1999 and 2006, hospitalizations for eating disorders in the US spiked 119% among children under age 12. In the United Kingdom, nearly a quarter, 24%, of child care professionals have reported seeing signs of body confidence issues in children aged 3 to 5, according to research from the Professional Association for Childcare and Early Years published in 2016. Another study found that the incidence rate of eating disorders for people aged 10 to 49 in the UK rose from 32. 3 per 100,000 in 2000 to 37.2 per 100,000 in 2009. Yet the peak age of onset for an eating disorder diagnosis in women was during adolescence, between 15 and 19, according to that study. Instagram, worst social media app for young people's mental health. When kids are entering adolescence, they're developing their own identity and trying to figure out what's socially acceptable, so when they're inundated with images of a particular body type in appealing scenarios, they're more apt to absorb the idea that that particular body type is ideal, said Sierra Filucci, executive editor of parenting content and distribution for Common Sense Media, a nonprofit organization focused on helping children, parents and educators navigate the world of media and technology. Among a sample of 6,411 South Africans 15 and older, 45.3% reported being generally dissatisfied about their body size, according to a study published in the journal BMC Public Health in 2015. Overweight and obese study participants underestimated their body size and desire to be thinner, whereas normal and underweight participants overestimated their body size and desired to be fatter, according to the study. Only 12% and 10.1% of participants attempted to lose or gain weight, respectively, that study found. In 2010s, embracing diversity. Since the start of the 21st century, there has been a shift toward celebrating diverse body types in the media and fashion. That trend appears to correlate with the use of social media, where diverse types are represented by everyday users online. Of course, social media can also give some teens a negative body image. A Common Sense Media survey found that more than a quarter of teens who are active online stress about how they look in posted photos. On the other hand, the rise of social media has allowed for real women to celebrate real body types. McClendon even called social media a frontier for body-positive expression. Over the course of the last 50-plus years, the American ideal has shifted from curvy to androgynous to muscular and everything in between, Filucci said. As these ideals change, they are reflected and reinforced in the culture through media, whether it's fine art or advertising billboards or music videos, she said, adding that however those ideals are presented, they can still influence the body image of young women and even children. In 2007, the first episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians aired in the US, and ever since, the Kardashian sisters' bodies have become a frequent focus of celebrity weekly magazines, ushering in new curvaceous body ideals. Just watched swimsuit model, I claimed confidence in my cellulite. Replay more videos. Must watch swimsuit model, I claimed confidence in my cellulite. 55 In 2015, Robin Lawley was the first plus-size model featured in Sports Illustrated's swimsuit issue. In 2016, fashion designer Christian Siriano featured 5 plus-size models in his show during New York Fashion Week. That same year, toy manufacturing company Mattel debuted a line of Barbie dolls depicting diverse body types, including curvy shapes. Last year, reality show Project Runway included models ranging from size 0 to 22 for the first time in its history. As for the current state of beauty, some health experts are warning of the dangers of the selfie and social media culture as influencing body image, as the rise of Instagram and YouTube has allowed for the bodies of everyday people to be idealized, not just the bodies of supermodels. Follow CNN Health on Facebook and Twitter. See the latest news and share your comments with CNN Health on Facebook and Twitter. Yet when that body type is different from the one girls and young women have, they can be vulnerable to low self-esteem, Filachi said, adding that parents can help children develop positive body images through role modeling. That means refraining from negative body talk both for themselves and others and speaking positively about their own bodies, especially emphasizing their body's abilities like strength, flexibility, resilience, adaptability. Rather than attractiveness, she said. Parents could also look for media that reinforces positive body images and avoids gender stereotypes. Correction, a previous version of this article miscalculated the incidence rates of eating disorders in the UK from 2000 to 2009.